This joint right here, it makes me wanna.
Well, welcome to Simply Talandria YouTube channel. My name is Talandria, and today I'm going to be working with you guys in Marvelous Designer 2. The material you're going to need for this tutorial will be the Marvelous Designer software program, as well as any OBJ file you have for a model that you may want to use while creating in Marvelous Designer. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so basically I am not going to be going through, this is not a basic tutorial to talk to you guys about how to use Marvelous Designer. It is assumed that you guys already have a working knowledge of how to use Marvelous Designer 2. I will go over a few buttons that I'm going to be using, tools I'm going to be using during this tutorial, as well as I'm going to talk about the basic setup of Marvelous Designer 2. So starting from the very left, you have the 3D window here with your model. And I think I told you guys in the beginning of this video that if you haven't already, you're going to need to upload your OBJ file for your model if you're creating clothes for 3D characters in Second Life, IMVU, or any other 3D world. So you're going to need to upload your model for that, and you just basically go to File, you go to Import, and import OBJ, and that's how you bring in your OBJ, your model for that you're going to be using to create with. The next window we have is the 2D window that you're going to be creating. This is where you're going to do most of your creation at. Whatever you do in the 2D window, it is reflected in the 3D window. And over to your far right, you have your object browser and your property editor. You're only going to be using this area, like if you were gonna change the fabric texture, if you wanted to add, if you were gonna change the fabric, or if you wanted to add a texture to the clothing once you finish, you would use this side, and also you would use this side, like if you need to make corrections on a garment. But we're not really gonna go into all of that. We're just gonna do a basic outfit, top and pants. In the 3D window, the only thing we're going to use over here, of course, will be the simulator to simulate to put the clothes on the actual model. We're going to be using, let's see, we're not going to show on the 3D window, but we will use possibly to reset default arrangement or to rearrange the pattern, and we will definitely use the sync button. That's going to be very important. We'll talk about that in just a moment. In the 2D window, we're going to pretty much use a lot of these tools. You're going to need the edit pattern button. You're going to need the curvature tools. You're going to need the point tool. You will need all of the polygon tools. You won't need the internal polygon tools because we're not going to be creating any internal shapes, but you will need like the create polygon, the create rectangle, and maybe, I don't think we're going to need the create circle tool today. As far as the sewing tools, the only ones you're going to need to make sure that you have show seam lines button selected, and we're going to be using the segment sewing button as well as the edit seam lines. We're going to use the edit seam lines button. I'll show you guys later once we get started sewing. Just in case you make a mistake, you may need to go back and unsew in an area, so you use the edit seam lines button in order to resew an area just in case you make a mistake. And I'll show that to you guys in a few once we get started sewing. Alright, so also really quick, let's go over the mouse because there's a few things that you guys may want to change with the mouse. Of course, if you left click, and you might see these little, let me zoom in, you see if you left click, that is how you select. If you use the mouse wheel to scroll in, if you push up, that's going to scroll you, well actually it's in reverse. If you push up, that's gonna actually scroll, that's gonna take you out. And if you push down, if you scroll down, that's gonna actually zoom you in. But if you want to change that, because it seems to be in reverse in Marvelous Designer, you just simply go to settings, and then you're gonna go to preferences, and then you're gonna go to view control, and right in the part where it says zoom, you're going to go in direction and click forward instead of backwards. You're going to change backwards to forward, and that'll actually get your mouse wheel to work correctly. If you hold the mouse wheel down, that is the grabbing tool, you can move the model from left to right, up and down. And the same thing, the 2D Wonder, you can grab up, down, side to side. Um, if you right click, if you just simply right click, it's going to give you a menu. But if you right click and hold it down, you can actually move the model in 360 degrees all the way around. So that's how you move your model around. So you can see the back of the model, front of the model. You can be able to see how your pattern is turning out on the model. Alright, so that is the basics. That is as brief as I'm gonna go into as far as like how to use the tools and how to use the mouse. That's the basics. I'm gonna go into that right now. I'm gonna get started, so I'm gonna zoom into my 2D window, bring it up some, and I'm going to zoom back just a bit so I can be able to see on my 3D window. I may zoom in later on my 3D window when I get ready to look, but right now I need to focus over here. So I'm going to start with the polygon tool. We're going to start with the shirt first. There is two ways that you can create a shirt. You can use the rectangle tool and actually draw a rectangle and start here with a rectangle. Hang on a second. Let me sync it so you guys can see it in both 3D and in the 2D window. So you can start with the rectangle, and you can add points. Okay, so of course, if I was going to be making a shirt using a rectangle, I would use the add point or split line. You know you're going to need a point, a hole for the arms, so I will add one here, come across, add one here for the other arm. I would probably add one here and one here. Those would be the only points that I would need to add for the shirt. Now I would probably come in and use the actual curvature tool, edit curvature, and I would bend the neck down some. I would bend and come here and click and actually pull in the arm on both sides. And that basically would be my shape for my shirt. I mean, I may do a few other things, like I may want to bring this in some on both sides just to give it a little more curve, a more curved fit to the body. But that would be the basics if I was going to use a rectangle. I personally prefer to use the polygon tool when I create when I create shirts. But I'm going to show you guys how this will look if I actually use this as my shirt. Okay, so let me use the select tool. I'm going to select this. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it right here. All right, so now I have two. I'm going to come over to the 3D window. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to flip it horizontally. That way, when I push this piece to the back of my model, the inside is actually facing on the inside of the shirt. So, and the front of the shirt is actually facing the back. So, and to know if you have it correct, when you look at it from the front of the model, it should look great on the inside. That's how you know that you have the inside actually facing in the correct direction. Alright, so I'm going to push this over a little bit, and I am going to begin to sew these together. So I'm going to need my segment sewing tool. I'm going to sew here to here, and if you look at it on the side, you will see that it's actually sewn correctly. Okay, I'm going to sew here to here. And remember earlier I spoke about using the edit pattern tool? Well, if you, like, you can see that this is incorrect. The lines, the sewing line should not be crossed up here. So if I wanted to correct this, what I would do is I would click on the edit seam lines, and then I would click here, right click here, and reverse the seam lines, and now my lines are correct. So that's basically how you use that tool to correct that. And then I am going to sew from here, excuse me, I get my segment sewing tool. So from here to here, once again, those lines are incorrect. So I am going to get my edit seam lines, right click here and reverse. Then I'm going to go back to my segment sewing tool. I'm going to sew from here to here. Now before I actually click this, I can see that it's wrong because the line is going to be crossed up. So I will actually slide down and make sure, slide it down a little bit until my line's uncrossed, and now I know I have it correct. So you can also see that reflected here. So let me just undo this real quick. So at first, let me just undo. Alright, so when I first clicked here and I slid my line over to here, as you can see that my lines are crossed up. So all I did was I took my mouse and I slid it downward, because as you can see, this point, if you want to know if you're sewing it correct, you see, you pay attention to where the point is. So right now my point is down here. So I need to make sure this notch is also down here on this side in order to get it to sew correctly. If it's up here, it's going to be crossed up, and that wouldn't be correct. So we want to make sure the notch is at the bottom. So we click over here, and now that is sewn correctly all the way around each side. What I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to select, remember I told you, you can, if you love click over here, you select. So I'm going to select the front of the garment, and I am going to hold shift down and select the back of the garment and actually pull this down just a bit so my arms can be kind of resting inside. It's gonna, doesn't matter if the arm is in, it's gonna sew it the correct way, but I want to kind of like pull it down just a bit so when I do sew it, it won't have a big opening, or it won't slide off the model. Alright, so now we're going to simulate this inside of the 3D window, and hopefully it'll simulate correctly. Ooh, it slid right off my model. This is what I was trying to avoid, but I know why. It slid off my model because the neckline is too long. So we're going to go ahead on and we're going to use the tool that I talked about earlier, rearranging all the patterns. So we're going to rearrange this, and it's going to put it right back the way it was before I simulated it. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to bring this neckline in some. It's about here, and bring it into about here on the front, and do the same thing on the back. Bring it into about here. Same on the back. That doesn't look right, but I'll bring this out just a bit. Alright, so I brought the neckline in some, and I think that is going to keep the shirt from falling off our model this time. So let us simulate. Alright, so it didn't fall off completely. And you want to give it a little quick tug. Hang on a second. Sum this up. Hang on one second. I'm going to redo this. again. And I'm going to grab both the front and back of the garment and front, back of the garment, and I'm going to slide this up and then simulate. Alright, there we go. And that is one way to create a shirt. I don't like this shirt. I like my shirts to be a little bit more detailed. It's a little baggy shirt. We can do some work on this shirt if we wanted to. We could use the segment line and not segment line. We can use the edit pattern tool, and I'm going to click on this side, hold shift down, click this side. So when I move this one, I'll be moving both sides. And if you're worried about keeping everything straight, you can click on it, hold down shift, and that'll put you on a straight path over. So I'm going to bring this into the body to about right here. Alright. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So I click here, then I'm going to click over here. And I'm going to bring this in some. And it's like, this right here. I'm not sure why this side did not move. And so now that's a tighter fit. That looks a little bit better. I don't like the way the arms are. So I am going to click here, bring this in just a bit on the front. Bring this in on this side. Alright. Make this one curve. Alright. That looks a little bit better. Now this is too long to be a shirt, so this looks more like a dress. I'm going to click the bottom lines, and I am going to move this up. Hold on shift so I can straighten it, get it straight. Bring the shirt up to about here. Alright. So that's more like a shirt now. That looks better. I like that better. I think we're going to keep this shirt. As you can see, everything about this shirt is not created equally. If you look at these, it's not created equally at all. But it turned out okay. So we got to go with it. Alright. I may move this shirt up a little bit more. Let's move it up a little bit more. Hold on shift. Click here. Let's see. Let's see here. Here. Bring this up to about, let's make it up here. Let's bring it up to about here. Alright, so we can create some pants. So you might want to play with the shirt in the back a little bit. So we can create our pants. I like this shirt is okay. Alright. Now for the pants. Now we can do the pants the same way, but I'm going to actually use the polygon tools. I think it works better to me instead of just using a square. I'm going to actually bring my first line here to the center. Come down to about the crotch area of the pants, the crotch of the pants area. Just about here. Come inward a little bit. Come in just a little bit. It's about here. Bring it down to the ankle area. Come over. Come up. And then come up to about here. And then Let me copy this. I totally forgot. I forgot to stop simulating. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to delete this, turn off simulation, and I'm going to paste it right back. Alright. Now I'm going to use the curvature tool to make a few adjustments to these pants. I don't want it to be, I want to bring this up a little bit. Bring this up to about here. Alright. So we have one pant leg done. Okay. To get the other side, there's two ways we can do this. We can either copy this and paste another one over here, or we can click this line and unfold the pants. And now we have the front of the pants. Now we'll copy and paste it here. Now we have the back part of the pants. Of course, don't forget to come over to the 3D window and flip it horizontally. That way the inside of the pants, when you move it to the back, it will be in place. But before we do anything else, before we move that to the back, we need pants need to have it, there needs to be a waistband. So we're going to use the create rectangle tool, and we are going to create a band for these pants. Alright, so we have the front band, and we're going to need to copy this. Wait, actually, before we copy, I'm going to add a point because there's a point in these pants here. So I'm going to add a point here. So when we get ready to sew, we are sewing even lines. We can sew the entire band across. Now I'm going to copy this, paste it. Alright, so, and I'm going to right click and flip horizontally. Now I'm going to move this band, shift, grab the pants, and move it to the back of, move it to her back area, put it in line, make sure we get it close enough to the body. Alright, and we're going to begin sewing. So let's get started with our segment sewing. Alright, so this should be pretty easy. Remember when I told you guys, you make a mistake, you can always use the edit seam line in order to reverse your sewing. So we have one side of the band sewed together. We need to sew the other side, making sure we sew it correctly. We're going to need to sew the front and the back. And let's just check and make sure we have that sewn correctly. Zoom in. As you can see. So far so good. We're going to need to sew front of the pants to each other. To the back, and we're going to need to sew the insides. Don't forget these little seams up here in the center. So first seam goes here, and let's just check to make sure that's correct. That is correct. Second seam goes here, and then this seam here, and this seam here. Let's just take a look. So far so good. Looks like we have everything sewn correctly. Alright. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. So I'm going to grab all of these pieces. Let me get the select tool. I'm going to grab shift. Ooh. And then I'm going to hold shift down and click the bands. Wait. Alright, so I have all these pieces selected. And I'm just going to move it up just a bit. And that looks about right. Let's simulate. Alright, so we have simulated. I'm going to pull these pants up some. Get them to fit up on the model correctly. Pull them up. Do the same in the front. Oops. I'm going to just tug at this shirt just a little bit. And that's the gist of how to make pants. Now, I don't like the way the seat is drooping on this, but I also don't like the way, I don't feel like it's tugged snug enough on the waist. So I'm going to actually make the waistband a little bit smaller. So I'm going to click here, hold on, shift, click here. I'm going to move it and some. And then I'm going to pull them up again. Same thing in the back. Alright. And then I'm going to actually raise this crotch up just a little bit. I'm going to take this crotch, hold on shift, and I'm going to move it up a little bit more. Alright. I'm going to do the same thing in the back of the pants. Turn around. And move this crotch up just a bit. Hold on shift. Alright, so now I'm going to pull her pants back up and get them in place. That's much better. Alright. Much better. So now we have a nice top and a nice pair of pants. If you don't like the way how long the pants is, too far down, you want to bring those up some, we can hold shift. Right. And then click, hold shift, and bring these pants up just a bit. Alright. And of course, we're going to need to simulate these, pull these up again. Alright, there you go. You have a simple pair of pants and a simple shirt. Of course, the polygon tool is, to me, I like using the polygon tool better when creating a shirt. It gives you an opportunity to put more variety, different curves, different ways to make shirts. If I wanted to make this a long sleeve shirt, I could add a sleeve and sew it on. It would be very simple to make this a long sleeve shirt. Yeah, so course, remember what I said, whatever you do in this window, it reflects in the 3D window. And that's basically it. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave comments in the comment section. If you feel like the video was moving too fast, you have any, if you want to see a basic video where I actually show all the buttons I'm using to do certain stuff, because I'm not sure if the actual buttons are picking up where you guys can see what I'm pressing or clicking. But if you want to have a video where you can actually see all of that stuff, all you guys have to do is put it in the comment section, and or you can send me an email at simplytalandria@gmail.com. That is simplytalandria@gmail.com, and I will be happy to create videos based off the content you guys want to see. Alright, thank you. Bye bye.